All right, so good morning. I am Cammie Nairn. I work for NCDPI in the Digital Teaching and Learning under Home Base. And I manage the NCEES Teacher Evaluation product for you guys so I can answer your system questions. And my policy questions partner is joining us today, and that's Kim Simmons. If you'll introduce yourself today, Kim.
Good morning. My name is Kim Simmons, and I am the North Carolina Educator Evaluation System Coordinator. I mostly work with policy, practice, and procedure, and I partner with Cammie quite a bit because she works on the technical side of things, and I'm happy to be here today and thrilled that you guys are joining us.
Thank you, Kim. You also see a picture there of Robert Sachs. He also works in our Educator Support Department. Not sure what the title is right now, but he also handles a lot of the policy. He's a self-proclaimed NCEES guru as far as all the policies for NCEES. So if you ever have a policy question, Kim and Robert are your go-to people. So let's get started. We have about our session today. So today's session is going from 11 till 12:20, and we're going to be learning about NCEES and how the evaluation and PDP plans correlate and how to best prepare for those observations. What does it mean for beginning residency or experienced teachers or support staff? You're going to find out that you're all on that same path. So we're going to look at that together. And we've aligned today's session to the digital learning competency of data and assessment, where teachers will use technology to make data more accessible, adjust instruction to better meet the needs of a diverse learner population, and reflect upon your practice through the consistent effectiveness of assessment. All right, so hopefully you guys did get all my messages. When I first sent out this meeting, I did send you the WebEx link, but we also needed you registered in NCEES. This is where we'll be taking attendance today. So the link is here. If you've not done that, I'll put that in the chat. There's the NCEES link, NCEES registration. Can't spell NCEES today. And post that for you guys. If you didn't, don't worry about it, and you can't do it now, don't worry about it. It will probably direct you to sign in through EdCloud, and then it will take you straight to the section where you register. You also, if you've not downloaded the app to actually do the QR code to mark attendance, you can go to your app store and look for Performance Matters. Here is your code, KEXU4S. So maybe take a quick picture of that. And if you've not downloaded that yet, there is an optional way to do attendance. So if you can't get this working, don't worry about it. We're going to make sure you're attended and you'll get a certificate. All right, on our agenda today, we just did the introductions and we talked about logging in. And then we're going to talk about the evaluation circle. What is the whole evaluation circle? How does this connect to PDPs and our summary evaluations, determining those cycle types that we use, and the professional development plan. We'll take a good look at that in NCEES. We'll look at your self-assessment, the goals, preparing for reviews, and then we're going to take a good look at our NCEES Google site information and resources. And pay attention to that because we have some activities surrounding our Google site. And then we're going to take a look at your evaluation, the different types that are in NCEES. Why are some evaluations not in NCEES? What are those? Why should you acknowledge those observation conferences, those post-observation conferences you have with your evaluator? What is that response for? And we're going to do those observation activities. And then we have some resources for you on how to prepare for observations and observation conferences. And we're going to talk also about professional development, just a smidge. And then we'll give you a few minutes at the end to do that attendance so that you can sign in and scan your QR code and get your certificate. So we're going to get started right in and talk about the evaluation circle of continuous improvement. So the purpose of the North Carolina Educator Evaluation Process, we'll just read a couple of these. You can read this on the screen. The Teacher Performance Evaluation Process serves as a measurement of performance for individual teachers and a guide for you as you reflect upon and improve effectiveness. And then maybe it helps you focus on goals and objectives of your school and your district. And it enhances the implementation of your approved curriculum. It also informs those IHEs, the higher education institution, as we're developing our new teachers, our brand new teachers, and they get into the teaching profession. All right, I'd like to turn this over to Kim.
Thanks, Cammie. So here on the screen, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So on the screen, if you'll take a look over to the left side, you see standards for two process components, which means that we have two things that happen during the whole evaluation process for the year. We have evaluation and supervision. Evaluation is the systematic judgment of evidences by a knowledgeable other for the summative purpose of assigning a rating of quality. So the evaluation process is annual, and so this evaluation where you are assigned ratings happens at the end of the year. This is an annual evaluation, so ratings are assigned on the rubric at the end of the year during the summative evaluation. However, throughout the year, we have what we call our observations and our gathering of data, and that's a part of our supervision. And the definition of supervision here is the intentional interaction with knowledgeable others, that would be the teacher and the evaluator, for the formative purpose of improving practice. We want to stress that our evaluation process is a process to promote teacher growth. This is not a gotcha or a way to get rid of teachers. It's all about promoting professional growth. So the graphic in the center of the slide gives us some insight into the continuous improvement cycle that happens during the year. So if you look at the center lighter blue component, the teacher brings instructional inputs to the class, provides the instruction, then determines the instructional outcomes, which then, as you see the arrow, would then loop back around to inform the teacher input again into the next lesson, always reflecting for improvement. Now you see here that we've included a bit of information about professional learning communities, and that's because it's very important. Our rubric and our standards directly address the use of professional learning communities within our school environment. And we use our PLCs for collaborative coaching, but it's also a part of our action research. Whether we realize this or not, we're trying things, we're improving them, we're trying them again. It's a continuous cycle, PDSA cycle of improvement. And so that really informs our action research, whether it be formal or informal. It is actually occurring, and it creates data for us to use for improvement. So also, we determine the success of teachers' practices using the evaluation process and standards, which are outlined in the rubric. Will you go back one? Yeah, there we go, which are outlined in the rubric. We use the rubric to complete a self-assessment, which informs the PDP goals, and you see this in the top left-hand corner of the navy graphic. And we also use the rubric to gather feedback for the classroom observation and to provide formative feedback to the teacher. The rubric looks for both instructional practice and professional practice, as you see noted in the lower corners. So here you see we have a visual created which really does support a continuous cycle of improvement for the teacher. So the evaluation cycle, continuous improvement, the North Carolina Professional Teaching Standards serve as the lens through which teacher practice is viewed. So we use the Professional Teaching Standards rubric to assess professional practice and instructional practice. And for The professional practice, and we're looking at the two bottom corners. For professional practice, we're looking at standards 1 and 5, and for instructional practice, we're looking at standards 2, 3, and 4. But for the self-assessment and the classroom observation, we use all of the standards, unless, of course, you're on an abbreviated evaluation, but that is something we'll determine a little bit later in the presentation. Here we have a visual of the two versions. This is just two versions of the rubric. To the right is the fillable form that's located in the manual and also posted on our NCEES Google site. And to the left, you see the visual of the NCEES online form. And the teacher evaluation, you are required to complete the online evaluation for teachers in North Carolina unless, is there a reason, Cammie, do we have anyone that's not using the online version? Do you know?
Sorry, I had to unmute, sorry.
Okay.
So only charters,
Okay.
youth charters have access to this, but they can choose to use something else.
Okay.
But everybody else must use this online system.
Okay. So there are 4 types of assessment. You see the numbers at the bottom. 4 types of assessment of teacher performance. You have professional practice, which I mentioned before, standards 1 and 5. That would be teacher leadership, and standard 5 is teachers reflect on their practice. Those are professional practices. And then we see the instructional practice, which includes classroom practice, standards 2, 3, and 4. But you also see other types of assessment for teacher performance, which would be student survey and student growth. Those are not a part of our assessment for the teacher evaluation, but that data can be used to inform. So here, outcomes become inputs as the results of the evaluation process drive the professional development activities and priorities the following year. So, however, the data that was collected and is completed and reviewed with the teacher on the summative evaluation from the prior year will inform the next year's PDP goals. And you see at the top the assessment of the teacher performance. We see those things listed there, and then it informs the upcoming year. So the initial PDP goals, we use our professional practice data from the previous year, and instructional practice data from the previous year, which would come from our observations. And of course, we always use our student experience and surveys, which could be formal and informal. Those are just things that inform what we do. That's not official, but that informs our PDP goals. And then we also use student growth data, the Evals data, to inform our mid-year PDP process, because we don't receive our Evals data from the previous year until around October. So we can't get it on our initial PDP goals, but we certainly can use that information to inform our PDP process or any changes we want to make to the PDP at our mid-year check-in.
Kim, we had a question.
Yeah.
Does this also include media coordinators or just classroom teachers?
Media coordinators follow the same process as what the teacher evaluation, but the standards, of course, are different. And when we get a little bit further in, we'll go to support staff, and you'll see where all of the information is located for you. So here you see to the right side, that's kind of like a one-pager that we've included here, which outlines the annual evaluation process. And even though our evaluation process is an annual event, it's also an ongoing process for teachers, a process loop, if you will. Professional development plans act as a bridge to connect individual school years into a continuous professional learning pathway that links teacher learning and growth to future action. For example, if you look in the light blue section of the process, you see component A, the PDP plans. So based on the summary evaluation from component 7, you would determine which of the PDP plans that you would have for the next year. And then that would inform, if you circle on around the evaluation to component 4, that would inform your pre-observation conference with your principal, because you have 3 items that you want to discuss there: the self-assessment, the professional growth plan, and of course a written description of the lesson that's to be observed. So the previous year's performance does inform the type of plan that you're on the next year. Here we have some COVID 2020 information. So on our NCEES Google site, we have gathered information that is relevant and timely to your work now in this time as we respond to COVID-19 in the year 2020. So you see the most recent data is here on this page for you, but I really want to highlight this recorded presentation that you see to the right side to review the use of the NCEES rubric to support educator professional and instructional practices and offer some conditional use when observing remote and blended learning. So this is just a great resource, a great video for you to really create a lens for how you're looking at the professional practices, you're looking at the standards and the elements of the descriptors, and how that they can relate to blended and remote learning.
Okay, so let's talk about professional development plan.
So there are 3 types of professional development plans. We have individual growth plans, monitored growth plans, and directed growth plans. And regardless of which plan that you're on, these plans are intended to be used as a roadmap for teacher growth. They can include individual, school, and district goals, but do remember that they are about your individual growth. A school goal or a district goal can be included, but it needs to relate back to specifically to your individual growth as it relates to those school and district goals. Also, your plan goals may be aligned with your school improvement plan, or they may be aligned with teacher effectiveness data that you've received, those informal data points that are collected throughout the year that you do have access to. Those can be used prior to getting the official EVOS data. So to dig a little bit deeper into the types of individual, monitored, and directed PDPs, if you are a new teacher or a teacher rated at least proficient on all the standards on the teacher summary rating form at the end of the year, then you're on an individual PDP, which means that individually the teacher sets the individual goals for growth and meets with the administrator 3 times during the year to discuss at the beginning, middle, and end of the year. Teachers that are rated developing on 1 or more standards on the teacher summary rating form would be on a monitored professional development plan. In this case, the administrator and teacher meet together to discuss and to set the goals, and they should meet at least 3 times a year to discuss, and we recommend that they meet more often than that on a monitored professional development plan. Teachers rated not demonstrated on any standard on the teacher summary rating form or rated developing on 1 or more standards on the teacher summary rating form for 2 sequential years, they would be on a directed PDP. And in this case, the administrator would develop the goals for the teacher based on observations and documentation, any data that they collected from the prior year. In this case, the teacher and administrator meet and review the professional development plan, and they are required to meet at least 3 times during the year, but we recommend that they meet on a monthly basis, anyone on a directed PDP plan.
Thank you, Kim. Don't see any questions, so we're going to move on. Wanted to show you where this professional development self-assessment is. So on your screen, you can see that we're in the self-assessment. And how did we get there? We logged into NCEES, and we clicked on My Evaluations. We've started our PDP plan, and our first activity in there is the self-assessment. Everybody sees this red text here. We've been getting a few questions about that. It's just kind of a reminder to especially our support staff. If you come in here and you are a counselor or a library media specialist and you see a rubric for teachers, do not do the self-assessment. Go check with your principal that they have the correct plan type set and that it has processed overnight. Once that's in place, you can come out here and start this. Even though it says teachers, just going to start it and then go out, come back in, and then you're going to see a delete button under the menu. So then you can delete it, it will spin for maybe a second, and it will populate your counselor rubric or your library media rubric. So just a quick issue solving thing right there. But we are going to get into this professional development plan and maybe do a little activity on going through the steps for how to check these boxes. So you're going to see your standards and your elements for each of these. And for today, we are using the teacher rubric. So we have something new this year. We have a lot of people who think that during an observation, you are getting evaluated on a rating. And so for here, it would be developing, proficient, accomplished, and distinguished. But during an observation, you are getting feedback to help you grow. The developing, proficient, accomplished, and distinguished come into play when you're doing that summary evaluation at the end of the year. So we wanted to say, well, how can we let them know that what needs to happen in these areas to show growth? So we put these other descriptors in here. The first one is knowledge. Do you know it? Do you understand? Can the evaluator know that you understand how you contribute to students graduating from high school or use data to understand skills? The next step over would be action, and these are action verbs. Are you taking responsibility for the progress of your students? And are you providing evidence of data-driven instruction? If you see the word observation at the bottom, these are designated for something the evaluator can see in your classroom or in your virtual classroom now. Are you establishing a safe and orderly classroom? And the next one over is interaction. So this is how are your students interacting with you, how you're interacting with the students. This is are you communicating to students about being prepared for life in the 21st century? And then the last one over is extension. And in this example, this is still kind of in the classroom, but this is also, is this affecting, are you supporting ways to communicate with other teachers, or are you helping other teachers grow? Is what you're doing taken outside of your classroom as well as in your classroom? So are you encouraging students to take responsibility on their own learning? That's one extension in the classroom. And then you can read those through as you go through all 5 standards. All right. I have a question. It says, if a principal says you are developing, can you supply evidence to change the rating? And again, we need to watch how we're wording this. So if this is at the end of the year, yes, you can supply artifacts. The principal should be talking about your knowledge, action, interaction during an observation. And yes, you can still supply artifacts as well. And I think I have a slide in here for that to show you how to do that when you're doing a written response. Okay, so I just wanted to just review real quickly the standards that are the 5 standards. If you're on abbreviated, you're on standards 1 and 4 here. And then if you're on standard, comprehensive, or late hire, you could have all of them. So standard 1 is teachers demonstrate leadership. Standard 2, teachers establish a respectful environment. 3, teachers know the content they teach. 4, teachers facilitate learning for their students. And 5, teachers reflect on their practice. And those of you that are support staff that are joining us, these will follow along those same lines, but your rubrics will be worded to fit your role. Dr. Sachs recently did a recording about understanding the teacher rubric, and if you want to really know how to understand this teacher rubric, please go watch that. Kim also has some past year recorded sessions that we've done. They are both awesome sessions, so find those and watch those. I did put Dr. Sachs' new recording right here for you to watch. We are going to take a little dive into Standard 3, and that includes these 4 elements. Teachers align their instruction with NCEES. Teachers know the content appropriate to their teaching speciality. Teachers recognize the interconnectedness of content areas and disciplines, and teachers make instruction relevant to students. So you've got leadership, equity, content, instruction, and reflection. So we're going to look at a content rubric for an activity for you to do. So let me put this link in the chat. We're going to look at Standard 3. I'm going to ask you to do this activity to go through and check the boxes. Now this is going to ask you to make a copy of the document, so only you are going to see this. Nobody is going to see what you're checking. So I'll do it so I'll show you how it makes that copy. And we're going to open up Standard 3, and I'll ask Kim to pop in any comments she has because she works more along as to how this works out. I know how the system should work, in that you have to come out here and you have to read over the little descriptors. So first one is the knowledge. Am I demonstrating an awareness of North Carolina standard course of study? If I feel I am, I can check that box. So you're going to be doing this in your self-assessment. And you've probably already done this, but if you're brand new, you may want some more information about how to do this. So I'm going to let you guys take a couple minutes. Let me know if you're having any issues getting to that. But go through and check your boxes. And I'm just going to go through. Do you have to check each box? Can I check this box here if I've not checked the first 2? Yes. You do not have to read the ands. Those are for the summary evaluation. Right now, you're just reading the descriptors in each box. And ignore the ands. And just check what you feel fits what you know and do. So the first observation is teachers align instruction with North Carolina Standard Course of Study. Element 3A, 3B is teachers know the content appropriate for their teaching speciality. What can you check there? Teachers recognize the interconnectedness of content areas and disciplines, element 3C. So what can you check there? We'll just take a minute to let you read over those. When you're doing this in the online system, you have to have at least 1 check for each element, or it will not let you complete that self-assessment. And then finally, element 3D, teachers make instruction relevant to students. And Kim, I don't know if you want to say anything about the descriptors that are in the top boxes. But they can also read over that.
The definition of the elements.
Yeah.
Well, the definition of the elements, as you see, before reading the individual descriptors that's located in the rubric underneath the rating categories, even though we're not rating, but the definition of the descriptor, which in this one that's on the screen now, teachers incorporate 21st century life skills, blah, 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 that creates a context for the descriptors. So it's really important that you read what, it's usually in gray, but it's important that you read what's in the green to ensure that you have an accurate context to read and mark or not mark the descriptors below.
Thank you. All right, so most of you have probably done this by now. So we're just going to move on. At the bottom of this page, I want you to set a goal like you would set in your PDP. So if you're looking at this, are there areas that you have not checked that maybe you would like to set as a goal to do? So for me, who I am not a certified teacher, so it will be easiest for me just to kind of repeat what it says here. But then Kim's going to give you some samples in a minute or two that you can put in your PDP goals. And I'm having a hard time grabbing that. All right. Maybe I want to work on this one. Okay. So my goal, somebody's unmuted. All right. Thank you. It demonstrates I want to demonstrate an appropriate level of content knowledge in teaching in my specialty. And I would actually spell out what my specialty is in my goal. And then I would, what kind of activity would I use for that? And we're going to review the different options for that in a minute. But in your system, each one of these activities here has an asterisk in front of it. And that's going to mean you must have something in the box before you can complete that activity. So maybe I'm going to do something in my classroom that shows the content knowledge I have. So I'm just going to do a content knowledge activity. And I'm being very general because I'm not a teacher. I am so jealous of you teachers. You guys know so much. All right. And then any expected outcome or what kind of evidence am I going to provide? Maybe I need to provide a video of something I'm doing in class that day, or I'm keeping some other kind of tracking evidence of what I'm doing. What resources do I need? I'm just going to put knowledge resources. And then what kind of timeline is this going to take me to do? Maybe I'm going to work on this from September through December, and possibly it could be ongoing. All right. So if anybody wants to share maybe what they're putting, and then we're going to look at some samples in just a minute. It says you do not have access to check descriptors you can read. That might be how you're coming into the document. I'm not sure. We did share it. If not, just think about what you're doing, because I don't think we have time to go out there and check all the share settings. Think about how you would answer those, and then we'll move on, and we do have an activity that you'll be able to click in. Okay. Oh, is it really? I think I posted the wrong link out there. Let me go to the next slide. Professional development plan. I will go find that link in just a minute. I'll have to go to a different site. If it says it's to the 11 a.m. session, it does matter, yes. Okay. So let's talk about teacher goals, but I will go get that link in just a minute. The PDP review preparation for goal setting. So how do I prepare for this? If I'm a returning teacher, and Kim talked about this earlier, you're going to use that previous year summary evaluation. You're going to use your self-assessment where you've identified standards and elements to work on. If I'm a brand new teacher, I would refer to the teacher candidate evaluation rubric that I was working on at my IHE. I may be working with my mentor on this or my evaluator. And I also complete that self-assessment where I've identified standards and elements to work on to set some teacher goals or counselor goals or library media goals. All right, so, and that's going to be done here. So you're going to be looking in the system back in your professional development plan. You've completed the self-assessment. You've identified areas that you need to set goals for. So you need a green check on your self-assessment to be able to open the PDP initial review. I did have this question earlier. Can I reassess myself later? Yes. This area does not lock. You do need to complete it to get to the next section, but you can come back in here and reassess yourself at any time. However, it does not save the initial way that you did this, so you may want to print out so you can compare later how you've grown. I would print out what I did at the beginning of the year. There's a print button where you can save a PDF of it, and then go change it, and then you can save that and compare to how you've grown during the year. All right, so we're going to look at the PDP initial review. And here's where you're going to come in and set these goals. I put a little issue that's happening for abbreviated staff. Sorry, guys. But we've getting a lot of questions. I'm on an abbreviated plan. Why does my PDP form, when I come in here to do this goal setting, why does it say I'm on comprehensive? And that's because of HR data that's coming in the system. The abbreviated plan, I think I've just figured out why we're seeing this. So I'm working with IT and PowerSchool that owns our system support to see if we can get that fixed. But for now, you can just ignore that until we get it fixed. It also sometimes shows like that for people on standard plans. You're going to see a comprehensive. Those ones we probably can fix. It depends on what HR data is coming in from your schools to DBI. We just have to track it down, so we need somebody that's designated in your district to open a support ticket with us. All right, so I just wanted to show you that quick issue because we have a lot of those questions. The first thing you're going to do when you've clicked into that initial review is to edit the form. You're going to see your name, your PDP type. If you're on individual monitored, your position is going to show. You need to fill in your subject area. It has an asterisk. You'll see the year that your licensure cycle that you're in. This could be affected if you've been out on leave. It may be off kilter a little bit. So if we need to check it, just report it, and they'll open a ticket and we'll check it. What school you're at. If you see 2 schools listed here, that means your previous district has not released you. You need to contact them and ask them to release you because that could affect your plan. If you have a mentor assigned, and then the name would go there, what academic year it is, and then we have a link to the standards. Here we're looking at the support staff, so there's the support staff standards. All right, and then below this form is where you set your goals, and that's this screen here. So you would have clicked New to add another goal, and then you'll get this form, and you'll see goal, activities, expected outcomes, resources needed, and timeline. They all have asterisks like we talked about just a minute ago. Make sure you complete each one or it will cause issues down the line. All right, and then here's some samples that Kim has put out here. Do you want to read over a couple of those, Kim?
I will. You all have access to these with the presentation, but I created some flexible goals that you could really tailor to make your own, and they address blended and virtual instruction. Just the first one, I will acquire the knowledge needed to collect data, develop materials, and put into place individualized learning plans that are appropriate for students in virtual and or blended learning environment. And then you see activities and actions listed, expected outcomes and evidence of completion, resources needed, and timeline. Another one, I will monitor and differentiate instruction and modify instructional materials to meet the diverse needs of students participating in blended and or virtual learning. I will promote collaboration among staff members to align our curriculum with blended face-to-face and virtual learning strategies by leading professional communities targeting long-range plans. And then the next slide. If you're working on your master's, you could possibly use this goal. I will enhance my abilities to improve student learning by earning my master's degree in curriculum development. You could tailor this for your specific area if it was not curriculum development. The bottom one really lends itself for you to plug in what area you work in, especially if you have a student teacher this year. I will assist and help mentor resident educators to help them become successful in whatever your area of study may be, and you can change these out as you would like, but We just had some requests across the state, so I just thought I would develop 5 very broad goals that could be tailored to fit your specific needs. So please use these or change them up however you need.
Hey, thank you, Kim. I don't think I see any questions. Somebody was having trouble seeing our slides, but sometimes they get minimized if you've clicked off of the slides and you have to find the WebEx link and reopen it up. All right, so let's talk about the NCEES Google site. And if you have to leave, I see a couple people have to leave because they have meetings. So we have you recorded as here, and you have a link to the slides so you can scan that QR code later if you'd like. So this is our NCEES information and resources. It's time for you to explore. Kim has built this site out, and I am helping with some online materials out here as well. But this is an awesome site for you to go to. We want you to go find some coaching resources. I'm going to put this link in the chat, and I'm going to let Kim talk about what's on the left side of that screenshot right there while you guys go out there, and I want you to see if you can find some coaching resources.
Yes, so to the left side of the NCEES Google site, you see a navigation bar, if you will, which lists all the different pages that are located on the site. Help you locate things you're looking for. And what did you're looking for coaching resources? Is that correct, Cammie?
That's correct.
So if you guys will go into the NCEES Google site and see if you can find some coaching activities.
If you find anything, if you'll post it in the chat, if you found something that's related to coaching. We'll give you a hint in just a minute. If you find a title, you can copy and paste it in the chat or paste a link to what you found. All right, Kim, do we want to let them know how to find that coaching resource? It is, I believe, under
additional support and resources.
All right, and there's a whole section on coaching right here.
Yep.
Oh, somebody found the teacher-led conference framework. Very good. All right, so that was our first activity. Keep this in mind. We're going to be looking for some other things in a little bit. And somebody had a question earlier about support staff. I hope you've been out here to click on support staff and see all the options for what you can find as resources for support staff. I am a user of the search bar. So you could have also come out here and typed in coaching. And found some additional resources. All right. So where did you find coaching resources? We found them under, let me close support staff. Let's see if we can close that. I need to come down here and click. Under additional support resources. Then you have to scroll down the page. And here are your coaching resources. Yes, we are recording. I will admit that I was about 3 slides in before I started recording, but it is we will have all of the session recorded, yes. Okay, so I don't see any other questions out there. Thank you for participating in that. Oh, found somebody else that found some. Great, that's great. So please keep that site bookmarked. You will probably use it often. We do update it as much as we can each week, or at least a couple times a month, to get those updates out there for you. We're going to talk about evaluations now. So the first thing I wanted to show you is where to find your evaluation help guides. And we have a tab in NCEES for help guides, and these I create for you. They do have screenshots for each step-by-step in your evaluation plan process and all those activities. So we are going to be working on updating these to 2020, but these are still viable help guides. So go ahead and use these. I did make a new Help Guides page, so it's easier to find your guides now. Now you can look by plan type. So if you're on a comprehensive plan, here's the teacher guide. It also is for you support staff. So you would click that if you're the evaluatee. If you're the principal, you're going to click this guide here if you're the evaluator. And then, of course, comprehensive plan is required to have a peer observation. So here you're going to go to the peer observer guide if you're the peer. And then we have the standard plan guides, the abbreviated plan guides, late hire plan guides, and the PDP plan guides. Now the teacher guide for PDP is updated. I am working on updating the evaluator guide. It has old screenshots in it back when we had a orange and green site. So we will get that one updated as well. All right, and then over on the right-hand side, this is linked, so you can click on, let me see if we can copy that link address and put it in the chat. This is your evaluation cycle comparisons document. So if you're less than 3 years of employment, you will be on the comprehensive cycle. If you're more than 3 years employment, you can be on any cycle, comprehensive, standard, abbreviated. Your district is going to put you on one or the other. It's up to them. DPI doesn't police that. We do offer guidelines on what you should be on and those manuals out there about what they are each for. So if you look across, you can see that everybody does the self-assessment. The PDP plan, everybody does. They're marked with X's. Pre-observation conference is required for comprehensive plan for that first one and the standard cycle, but not for abbreviated. And then the formal observation with post-conference is required for comprehensive. You can see the standard one doesn't have to be formal. 2 additional observations are required beyond the 1 formal observations, and they may be formal or informal. And then you can read on across yourself. And then there's notes at the bottom. If you're in a license renewal year, it is recommended that you have all 5 standards. Some districts choose to put you back on comprehensive to get that peer observation, and then others may put you on a standard cycle if you've been on abbreviated and now you're in a renewal year. And then not reflected in this table are the training and orientation that are provided to all teachers at the beginning of the year. Oh, I clicked on the wrong section. There we go. All right. So a little bit more about evaluations and what you see in the Google site. If you click under support or at the very beginning of the Google site, you'll see the teacher evaluation process. We have a principal evaluation process. These are both in NCEES. And then the support staff, CDCs, ITFs, school counselors, media specialists, psychologists, school social workers, and teacher leadership specialists are all in NCEES. And that's because your license renewal is key to performance, and the State Board of Education has approved the rubric and the process to evaluate you, and that rubric is in NCEES. When your evaluator is setting those plan types, this is how it looks to them. They go to an area that has teacher plan type fields. They'll have your name over here, and they will select your plan type. So what evaluations are not in NCEES, and you must use a fillable form? Those are going to be your occupational therapist, your physical therapist, and your school nurse. And the way to designate that, we designated that on the Google site, is there's an asterisk in front of there. And there's a little descriptor at the bottom of the page that says these evaluation types are not in NCEES. Also the speech language pathologist, you are not in NCEES, although you may be seeing NCEES because you have the same budget code, and everybody gets into NCEES depending on what budget code you're paid under. Teachers are paid under budget code 121, and that puts you in NCEES. Speech, you're under 132, which I think the hearing people are. Somebody else that has a rubric that is in NCEES. So you're both under that same code, but one of your rubrics is in NCEES, speech language is not. However, you can take advantage of this. You can go take professional development in NCEES because you have access. And then we also have the central office staff for directors and other central office staff, and then superintendent evaluation process, all done outside of NCEES. Okay, let's see. All right, so we have a question. When are these items due? Is there somewhere I can find deadlines for these evaluations as a first-year hire? Yes, your principal during orientation should share with you your calendar schedule, at least a general schedule about when things are due. And they may spell out more detailed dates later, but they should be sharing a calendar schedule with you. Kim, did you want to say anything to that?
Well, you should receive 3 things during your orientation: a copy of the policy, the rubric, and you should also receive a calendar schedule. And what that should look like is like the first round of observations will be completed by October 1st. That's how general that the calendar would be.
Okay, thank you, Kim. Where do we go to find the appropriate code for a teacher or staff member? I have a document. It's called NCEES Data version 7 right now for what codes put people in NCEES. You would email me for that, and I can get that to you. And then what if I work in a private center and don't have a principal? When do I learn who my evaluator is? So I would ask whoever I report to. You may have a director that's doing your evaluation. I'm not quite sure about that. Whoever you're reporting to now should know. All right, so let's look at my evaluation tab in NCEES. And here it is at the top, my evaluation. These plans have been started. If you've not started your plans yet, you would see a Start New button here. But here, this person has started their plans. They see the titles of their plans, and they would click those titles to re-enter the plan. So, and I just wanted to point out, too, you have a few, if you've not started your plans, how to start those plan guides over here on the right. So we're going to click on the comprehensive plan here, and we're going to go into that observation container. So the training and orientation would have had already been done to open up this container, this channel, and you would have completed these pre-observation conference, the pre-observation conference acknowledgement to get into your formal observation. It's 4:25. We got just a second. Maybe we can go look at this. We go into NCEES. All right, I'm going to go get a test teacher. And we're going to go look at an observation. All right. All right, so now I'm this test teacher, and I'm going to go to my evaluation. Now, you're going to see a lot of plans out here because these are our test accounts, but you would only have one plan and one PDP. If you see more than one plan, let your NCEES data lead know or your principal know so they can get that fixed for you. So I'm going to click on the comprehensive plan. And here we go. Here's it opens up. It's the 2021 school year. Here's my comprehensive evaluation. I have a tab for that peer observation that's going to get done. If my evaluator has decided I needed additional observations, they would live here. You won't see anything under access rights. This would list who your evaluator is, who your peer is. Only the district administrator can see that right now. So right here, here is the training and orientation that was completed. Once that's completed, you can now open the observation. So here, what you would have had the evaluator done the pre, and then they would do the formal observation. So this is for the evaluator to do, but for you as evaluatee, once it's shared with you, to view. So you can come out here and view what was tally marked for you. And you definitely need to do this because you may want to provide, if he or she didn't check a box or takes responsibility for the progress of students to ensure they graduate from high school, maybe he just doesn't know that you know that. So make sure you get your artifacts together and any any kind of data that you can supply for that observation conference. So do make sure you review this. If you want to print it out, you've got a print plan. You've also got view all feedback here where you can print it to a PDF up here. So there's plenty of ways to print this out and keep a copy of it on your computer or print it out to paper. There's another print PDF over here. And then once you've viewed your feedback here, you can then prepare for your observation conference. And if I remember right, that must be done within 10 days. Is that correct, Kim, of the pre-observation?
That's correct.
Yep. All right, and then once you have you'll have the conference, and we recommend that the evaluator not acknowledge this until you have the conference so that you have a chance to provide those artifacts and everything. But even if this is checked, that's okay. You would also acknowledge, and if you want to provide additional artifacts, you can do that through written response. And we have some slides for this later, but I'll go ahead and show you while I'm out here, where you can edit here, and you can enter comments, you can attach files, you can save and exit that, and then if you look on down, you're doing this written response. So right now there's a place for the evaluator to acknowledge that you've done it. They'll come back in here in a minute. You also have a place to attach artifacts. So think about what you want to put where. Artifacts go here and artifact comments go here. And then you can attach files here. And I've attached my proof and my backup and my artifact documentation. And then I can save and exit that. And then once I've done that, it will notify, I'll mark it complete. It will notify my evaluator that I have submitted a written response. They would come back out here to the same area and they would acknowledge it. All right, so because I'm not the evaluator, I can't acknowledge it. They would have an edit button here and they would change it to yes, I've gotten your written response. Okay. All right, so I'm going to let Kim talk about the document on here. We want you to prepare for your post-observation conferences, and we want you to go out to the NCEES site in just a minute. We'll let Kim talk about this document first, because this is a very good way to prepare.
So the document you see to the right is the NCEES questions for post-observation conferences and summative evaluations. This document was created for the use of principals using the language of the rubric and using the authentic intent of the standards in the rubric. I created questions for each of the elements listed for each of the standards, and also questions for each of the elements located within the standards. So how this has evolved is this questions document is no longer just used by principals, it's really used by teachers as well to prepare for their post-observation conferences and summative evaluations, but also to get a true understanding of what the individual elements within the standards, what they're looking for. So this is a great document for you to have to understand the elements and standards, and it's also a great document to use the questions to really engage in meaningful conversations about teacher growth.
Yep, and I see a couple of questions before we do our activity. Are all standards in each category signed off on? So if the evaluator was observing all standards 1 through 5, yes. They would have done the tally marks for all 5 standards if that's what you're asking. And you'll have the conference about all 5 standards. If you're just focusing on certain standards, you'll have a conference about that. Depends on how your evaluator has set up your observations for this year.
But you only sign off one time for the observation event.
Yes, thank you, Kim. All right. And if we attended training and orientation last year at the same school, do we have to do that again this year too? They do that every year, don't they?
Yes. The training, you are trained, you should have training and orientation should happen annually.
Yep. Is there a questions list for library media specialists?
There is not.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let's go find some additional observation resources. I gave you some hints down here, some keywords you could search for if you want. So why don't we go back out to NCEES support, and if you find anything, please post that in the chat, and we'll share out what you're finding on the Google site for observation resources.
Tammy, I may be wrong. What was the question? The questions document for media? Was that right?
Library media specialist.
Yes, that. Let me check. Let me see if there's a questions document, and if there is, I'll put it in the chat bar. So I'll look for that right now.
Okay. And while she's doing that, while you guys are looking, somebody had a question about a link that was to the 11:30 session. Was that for the slides or the NCEES registration? If you'll post that question back in there, because I've lost the question has scrolled up and I can't see it anymore. So somebody's found reasons for avoiding hard conversations with teachers. That's a good one. See what else y'all have found. Thank you, Maya. If you have to be out of the building by 4:45, please, this is recorded so you can watch the rest of this later, but we will mark you as attended. We'll follow up, and you can bring it back up later and do that last slide and mark yourself attended if you want. All right, are y'all finding anything else? So the hint words again, you can search for questions, evidences, behaviors. We try behaviors. All right, here's one. So all these pages, if you'll scroll on down, you're going to see right here, here's some more questions. Reflective questions for math, reflective questions for ELA, reflective questions for RBT, evidence for professional teaching standards. A lot of good resources out there to help you prepare for that observation. Possible questions to ask myself before the conversation, and that's under the Teachers tab. Let's see, was that right here? Possible questions to ask myself. Somebody found millennial information from Learning Forward. Very good. Teacher-led conference framework. Great. Here's some sample teacher behaviors. Yep. All right. Thank you guys very much for doing that activity. We hope that you have found some good documentation to help you as you go into your observation conferences and those post-observation discussions that you have with your evaluators, or vice versa, other way around. All right, it's almost 4:40, so we'll take the next few minutes and I'll go through the next few slides. All right, yep, somebody said great resources. The slides will always be in the PD link after the workshop. Yes. They are Google slides, so they will be going there. If you have issues downloading them, you can email me later. I will download a PDF for you if you like and send it to you. All right, so here's that post-conference evaluator acknowledgement that we looked at. So we'll just go quickly through these next couple slides. We talked about the teacher or evaluatee. Teacher or support staff also has to acknowledge the process has happened. And here's just a review. Let me come back one. There's a little note in here right above your acknowledge button. We're going to review that. The teacher's acknowledgement on this form represents neither acceptance nor approval of the report. So sometimes there may be having those hard conversations. You're not very happy with that conversation. However, do you still have to sign or acknowledge? And the answer is yes, because what you're actually signing is indicating that you have reviewed the report with the evaluator and you have the ability to reply in writing. So I wanted to show you those written responses and places you could attach artifacts. So take ownership in replying back and to providing those artifacts to support your point of view. Now, it's going to be an ongoing conversation, of course, throughout the year, but your acknowledgement just verifies that the process has been followed. Okay? And we looked at the written response, so we'll just click on through those slides. Here's just a sample of the email your evaluator would receive, and then they would come in here and change that no to yes. And then we won't go into depth in the summary evaluation. We have a webinar later this year, or towards the end of the year, as we get towards summary evaluation time, to really explain out the summary evaluation. But I do want to let you know about, because we were talking about observations, how many must be completed before a summary evaluation will be opened up for you to then, for the evaluator to then do the summary evaluation and to have that conference at the end of the year for the summary. So for a comprehensive plan, you must have 3 observations completed and the peer observation completed. The evaluator must have all those locked as well before that summary opens. And then you just go on down by the plan types. Standards must have all 3 observations completed. Abbreviated must have 2. And the late hire must have at least 1. So these are only at least numbers. Your evaluator can give you more observations than what is in the plan. Now, abbreviated does just show 2, but they could do a peer or additional observation if they thought it was needed. Here's just a picture of what the summary evaluation looks like that is opened up. If you see the circle with the I, it would mean it's not ready to access. And you could hover over the I, and it would give you a top bubble that tells you what needs to be completed to open up this activity. Here, this activity is open, so they've done all the observations, and the summary evaluation form has opened up. Real quickly, you also have a channel that has your observation scoring summary in that, so check it throughout the year. It's going to show you everybody that has done an observation on you. So here you see the observation 1 has been done, observation 2 has been done, and a formal observation for the peer has been done as well. It lists who did the observation and what date the observation was done. You can uncheck the boxes to only see 1 of them at a time, or 2, or 3. So, and it'll go on if there's more, because this one doesn't have observation 3 yet. Again, for you guys on abbreviated plans, because your rubric is different, the peer observations, if you do have a peer observation, it will not show up here. We are working with the vendor on hopefully fixing that. It may not be until next year, but the evaluator would just need to click out of the observation scoring summary and go into the actual peer observation to review that before they did the end of year summary rating. All right, and then just really quickly, this is just a quick overview of professional development search. I did a quick look through of who signed up and registered for our sessions today. So we had a lot of APs, we had science, we had facilitators, we had beginning teachers, we had classroom teachers, we had counselors signed up. And so I said, well, let me go out here to the professional development tab, and you can search for each one of these keywords, and you're going to find PD that fits your role. So you can search for any of those. You're going to find courses by searching in the box up here. If you've attended our other sessions, we also talked through how to open this course search here and find courses that are aligned to the standards. So we did that activity where we did Standard 3, and maybe I wanted to use Standard 3 as one of my goal items to reach. I can come in here, open up the teacher evaluation standards, drill down to Standard 3, click the available button, and find courses aligned to Standard 3. All right, that will stop a minute. I think we might have some questions coming in. It says, where do I find a copy of the virtual blended learning document we displayed earlier? is probably in the slide deck if we linked it there. I have to go back and look at that one. And to Jamie, thank you for joining us. Understand if you have to leave. All right. All right. Yeah, so Grace did answer it, so the link is in the slide deck. What page it might be on. I'm not quite sure what slide it might be on. I'm sorry.
What resource is it? I'll look it up and find it.
A virtual blended learning document. I don't remember what we showed.
I'll look for it.
Okay. Thank you. All right, we'll scroll back down. All right, so that's how to find that PD. We will have some additional PD webinars coming up. And let's click and see what kind of resources we have out there for you. So, of course, our NCEES Google site, make sure you bookmark this one. And here's some on our DPI site that I wanted to show you. Did you know there's a teacher's corner out there on our DPI site? I'm going to copy that for you and put it here in the chat. I can spell corner. All right, there's the link for the teacher corner. Right here real quick and look at that. So here you can find beginning teacher support, educator standards, unpacking the standards. That's all under Teacher's Corner. And then let's see what else we have. We have NCDPI beginning teacher support. So let's go look at that. And Kim, they're asking if you ever found the media specialist questions too while you're looking.
I put a note in the chat. I found we have 3. I knew it was one of our support staff, but it is school counselors. So if you go to the school counselors page, the questions document is in the top right-hand corner. On the teachers page, it's in the top right-hand corner. Same for the principals, top right-hand corner on their main pages.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, and here's your beginning teacher support. There's mentoring, support program right there. Resources down here. Every region has an educational facilitator. If you joined my session earlier today, you heard from Kathy Oliver about professional development, and she will be glad to help you with that, no matter what area you're in. But any one of these are fantastic about helping school systems in the regions where they support. So this is your educator support facilitators. So do take advantage of them. They are so happy to help you guys. And then, of course, we have the State Board of Education Policy Manual. Maybe you want to go look up your eval and qualifications. Let me put that in the chat. And I'll show you how to find those because it doesn't like really just go straight to those. Thing keeps getting in my way. All right, there we go. All right, so here's the State Board of Education policy site, and you're going to be looking for eval over here on the left. I think I already went by it. There it is. Eval qualifications and evaluations. And just click on that, and it will load up all the eval policies out here. Eval 004 about teacher performance appraisal process. Eval 006 about evaluation standards and criteria for teachers. And there's policies for the support staff as well. So that is where you would go find the actual policies. Oh, looks like we're at the end of today. That went kind of fast. Do we have any other questions we can answer while I'm uncovering your QR code? Let me present this. All right, so there's your QR code for today. If you have your performance app, you can scan that right now, and we'll look at any additional questions. And we're getting a couple thank yous, so you're welcome. We're glad that you guys joined today. You guys are awesome. Do school counselor courses cover the school social workers also? If you find a course that is kind of designated for school counselor, I would take that question to my PD lead because it's going to be your district that has to answer that if they're going to approve that. Yeah, and we've been having this. You guys are saying it says I'm not registered. I had that issue last night for a section I had. Let me give you this other link right here. This is your September attendance link for if you're having issues. I don't know why a couple of my sessions have had that issue. But that's okay. We're going to make sure you are marked as attended. So do not worry about it. You can fill out this form. If it works for you, please don't fill out that form. You don't need to do double team up there. If the app says you are marked as attended, you are marked as attended, and so you don't need to fill out that form. So that form is for if you had any issues. Oh, and no problem about that. Somebody said they were late. That's okay. It's a busy week for everybody. All right, so get your final questions in. I will be stopping the recording in just a couple minutes since we're at the end of our session. We had a lot of participants today. Thank you. All right, you're very welcome. I'm going to go ahead and say thank you to Kim for presenting today. Always awesome to have Kim join us. She's very knowledgeable for the policy side of everything and with NCEES. And as a former principal, I think she can offer you a lot of good insight, though. And thank you guys for attending today, for all you're doing as educators. And we're going to say, go have a good night.